What's good, guys? I'm Dagget, this is Dagget Designs, and I'd like to welcome you all back to the table for another paint along video. So in today's paint along video, we're doing this little bad luck tattoo flash that I did, and I actually painted this a while back as part of a larger flash sheet, but I thought we would go ahead and paint this today, and I've left the line work for this one in a link in the description. You can go ahead and click on that link to download your line work file. Trace that onto whatever medium you'd like, whatever type of paper you would like, and then use whatever medium you would like to color in. In today's video, we're using Fabriano cold press watercolor paper. This is 300 GSM and it's a medium tooth. And we are of course using Liquitex acrylic inks as always. Now I have pre-filled my palette. I've got carbon black, I've got pyrrole red. This is sap green with a drop of the yellow orange. I've got plain yellow orange. We have cerulean blue, and we've also got transparent raw sienna. Of course, you can go ahead and modify the colors to your liking. Now, along with this, I have a glass of water for washing the brushes out and for blending. And I've also got two brushes. I've got an inking brush for applying the inks and a blending brush for blending out colors. Okay, once you've got all of your colors ready and you've traced out the line work, we can go ahead and begin. Now, in a previous video, or in the last paint along video I should say, I was talking about how to get an apprenticeship, and I got some good feedback on that. A lot of people were interested, and I had a lot of people sort of requesting that. They've been asking me questions about how to get an apprenticeship or how I got my apprenticeship, so that was really cool. Today we're going to talk about improving your art, improving your tattoo flash, and different styles of painting and drawing. So something that seems to be the case with my channel is you guys really enjoy the Japanese style content, and I think that's because there's not a lot of people doing Japanese style tutorials out there at the moment. So there's quite a few tutorials on doing American traditional stuff. I enjoy doing it. That's why I still teach a lot of the American trad style stuff, and that's why I tend to do it in my paint along videos, because I enjoy doing it, and to me it's a little simpler than the Japanese style of painting tattoo flash. So it's a little bit easier for me to paint and talk if I'm doing the American traditional style stuff. However, most of you seem to be on my channel for more of the Japanese style stuff. If that is the case, do let me know down below in the comments section. That way I know what you guys want to see in future videos, what kind of topics you guys want me to cover as well. So some of the questions I've received about Japanese style art is basically, how do I improve for starters? Where do I start? And where did I learn? So I was quite fortunate that during my apprenticeship, I had a teacher who specialized in doing Japanese style color work. He also happened to specialize in doing American traditional style work. So I was very lucky and fortunate to have a teacher that specialized in both of the styles that I'm interested in. So I think that finding a good teacher is always a good place to start. If you working towards getting an apprenticeship, or you have managed to get an apprenticeship successfully, then of course you can try to find an apprenticeship where the person that you're learning from happens to specialize in the field of art that you particularly want to do. So I think having a good teacher is one of the places to start. However, not everybody has this opportunity. So in terms of getting better at these styles of art, specifically the Japanese stuff, the best way to do it is just to study a lot of Japanese style art. Look at a lot of reference photos, excuse me, and try to see how other people do it. More importantly, find artists that you think are, great examples of what you would like to do, and use their work as inspiration and reference material. There's no point sort of looking at random Google searches of Japanese style artwork. If you're going for a particular style, I think it's best to maybe get a list of 5 or 10 people that you really aspire to follow under, and study their work really heavily so that you can, gain an understanding of how they do their line work, how they do their shading and their color work. And a good thing to do as well is to try and understand the why of how they do these things. So not only how do they do their line work, but why is it done in that particular way? Now, this is easier said than done if you're just trying to figure it out on your own, of course. So you can go and look at a little bit of Japanese history, tattoo history, things like that. Try and source some information from there and learn from different sources. Don't just learn from one place. I think it's important to learn from multiple places, and this will give you a little bit of perspective, and it can teach you a lot looking through different source material for your references. Now, once you've got a good little reference library of images and artworks that you like, I think it's a really important step when you're very first starting out to copy and even trace some of these designs. Now, it seems like cheating, and I know a lot of people think tracing and copying is not really drawing and art, and they're right in a way. It's not. You're not really creating if you're copying and tracing. However, you're learning, right? Like, this is about learning, educating yourself to create art in these styles. So there's nothing wrong with tracing or copying in the beginning, as long as you're not taking credit for the work. And I think this is a really, really good way to learn. When I first started tattooing, I think one of the first things my teacher got me to do was stencil. It's actually quite funny. He got me to stencil a koi fish design, and I thought it was for him to tattoo on a client. So I thought he was just getting me to do his stencil for him, being a little bit lazy sort of thing. And like as an apprentice, a lot of your work is just doing whatever your teacher tells you to do. So of course I was just doing what I was told and thought that that was sort of the right thing to do. And I thought, like I said, that he was getting me to do his stencil for him, for a client. And turns out this wasn't the case. I finished the stencil and took it to him, and he had a look and pretty much said, okay, that's not bad. You need more practice, try again, and basically got me to stencil up a whole bunch of designs, mostly the stuff I was interested in, like Japanese stuff and koi fish. And this was because stenciling is basically tracing. When I say stenciling, I mean hand stenciling. None of this thermofax stuff, all hand stenciling. So you're basically tracing the design line for line with a pen. And what this did was reinforce the lines basically in muscle memory and also in my mind, so that through the process of constantly tracing these designs, I was getting used to how the hand moves when creating these lines. What angles your hand needs to be on when creating these specific lines, and what muscles in your hands you're actually engaging. This builds up somewhat of a muscle memory or pattern in your drawing. And this way, when you're drawing these styles later in life, when you're doing your own designs, once you've sort of practiced enough, you already have a pretty good foundation on how to draw these things, or at least how to draw the lines in the style that you're trying to recreate. So if you're trying to do something Japanese, there's going to be a certain way that they do their line work. So what I suggest doing is taking these reference images, printing them out, and just tracing them onto another sheet of paper. It doesn't even necessarily have to be watercolor paper, especially if you don't intend on painting the design afterwards, although painting it can be a good way to practice your shading and coloring as well. But yeah, just tracing these designs out should give you a good understanding of the line work and how to create them. In part to this was sort of one of my inspirations for doing these paint-along sessions. So the idea of this is, instead of doing all tutorials where I'm just showing you guys how to draw stuff, I can give you guys illustrations that I've done, hand-drawn illustrations that you can print out, and to start with, trace those illustrations. Once you're feeling more confident, you can go ahead and modify how you're tracing them by changing the line weight variations, changing the style of line work a little bit, adding your own details, taking out some of my details, basically editing those images to your style or your liking, and then coloring them in your own way. So the idea of this is not for you guys to just copy, it's for you to trace, copy, and repeat. This way you can learn and progress in a more natural way, I think, than just trying to draw everything when you don't even have a good fundamental understanding of how the lines are drawn. So of course the tutorials are for you guys to learn specifically how to draw certain subject matter, but I think it's a good idea to also trace and learn to paint the same style of work that you're interested in, so that you can learn the style of line work and the style of shading and coloring that person does. So I think it goes without saying that one of my inspirations in terms of Japanese style work is Horiyoshi 3. I think anyone who's interested in Japanese style tattooing and painting probably has him as an inspiration of theirs. He's just one of the old school guys, he's sort of done it all, and his stuff is just classic, super classic tattoo stuff for Japanese style tattooing. So that's a really good place to learn if you download some of his references. If you like some of the more Americanized style Japanese stuff, you could go with maybe Henning Royal Tattoo. Some of his flash is absolutely amazing. Also Chris Garver, I love Chris Garver's designs. He does really amazing Japanese work as well. Again, it's sort of more in the vein of that Japanese American style, which can be really, really cool as well. But that's sort of what I think of Chris Garver's stuff. And I think that his stuff is really, really good for learning as well and referencing. So you can, probably do a Google search and download some of his work to go ahead and trace and copy, so that you can learn. In terms of other inspirations, there's inspiration all around us. You don't necessarily need to pick and choose artists either. But in terms of other inspirations, early on I was very inspired by the work of Shige. Shige does a lot of, I would say, more realistic or neo-traditional style Japanese stuff. I guess some people might call it new school. Depends how you want to look at it. But it's basically Japanese designs or Japanese subject matters with a more realistic take on them in terms of the line work and also in terms of the coloring and the shading. So I used to like that stuff quite a bit, and I still think he's a really talented artist. His work is still really cool and very impressive, but I find myself more geared towards the traditional style stuff these days. You'll have to let me know down in the comment section below, who some of your inspirations are. They don't necessarily have to be tattoo related. A lot of my inspirations aren't. There's a lot of artists that I follow and enjoy their work who aren't necessarily tattoo artists or who aren't tattoo artists at all. They just have really inspiring styles of art, and that's what it's all about. It's not just about tattooing, especially the stuff that I'm showing you guys. A lot of it can just be about art in general, and I like to discuss these things with you as well. So I'm just going in now and applying all of the black to the outside ring of the horseshoe now. So this was a little concept of a design I came up with when I did this flash sheet, and I did a horseshoe which was, I guess, like the right side up, the right way up, or it was facing up, and had a rooster in it holding a 4-leaf clover. So this was supposed to represent good luck. And the flash that we're painting now is almost like upside down horseshoe with the number 13, unlucky 13, depending on how you look at that as well, and a skull. So this was almost like the bad luck variant of that piece of flash. So I thought it would be cool to do like an opposites style with this particular piece. So I've recently had quite a few people purchasing my brush pack. I want to say thank you for that. I really appreciate it. And for those of you who haven't checked it out yet, it's available over on my website, which is daggetdesigns.com.au. I think it's only $20 at the moment. And you basically get over 20 hand-drawn, hand-illustrated brushes for use with the Procreate app on the iPad or the iPad Pro. And this basically gives you a whole bunch of stencils to go off. So, in speaking about tracing, you can copy all of these from Procreate and trace them onto watercolor paper. Practice your painting. They're really good for mocking up designs, putting together big tattoo designs. I've got a couple of friends that use them. They're tattooing, and they'll just use the more basic brushes in the pack, which are like the flower brushes or the flower stencils. And if they're drawing up a whole sleeve, they might draw the main components of the sleeve, such as the koi fish or the waves or something like that. And then they'll just take the cherry blossom brush from my pack and go crazy. And this way they can put a whole bunch of cherry blossoms onto their design without having to hand draw each of them. It takes away some of that tedious work that drawing individual cherry blossoms certainly can be. Can be a little bit of a chore. Okay, so I'm just doing some of the black shading on our leaves here. And I'm going in pretty dark with this. I like my black shading to be really heavy. I don't like super light grey shading on a lot of these designs, especially the more traditional ones. I like to go in nice and heavy with my blacks. I'd also like you guys to leave a comment down below letting me know, what you thought of this video, what you're thinking for future videos, and what kind of content you guys would like to see. I've sort of not really had too much feedback, but I'm trying to gauge what kind of content you guys would like to see on my channel other than the tutorials. I'm still going to be posting tutorials, as you know. I've been posting them weekly still. But I like to try and vary the content a little bit and make it a little bit more interesting for me to make and for you guys to watch, and so that it's not always the same old stuff. Alright, I'm just washing my brush out here, and we're going to go in now with our Pyrrole Red. I'm going to be using Pyrrole Red for some of the main elements of the design and also some of the background work. So I'm going to go ahead and take some Pyrrole Red here, and I'm going to load up my brush. And I want to start by doing the bottoms of the horseshoe. Just coming straight over the top of my black. And I'm just doing solid red for these parts, no skin breaks or anything like that. Just coming down. Now you'll know this if you've downloaded the line work. The number 13 is double lined. You can do that solid black, or I'm just going to go ahead and put a little bit of red in there. I think that will look nice and help it stand out from the banner a little bit. Okay, doing the inside of the skull red as well. Again, this is just solid red. Whenever there's like large areas of, you know, plain paper. I'll put in red and bring it, you know, close to the line, and then maybe put in a little bit of a skin break. But it depends what I'm doing. In this case, we're doing the inside of the skull, which I want to keep nice and dark. And on top of that, we're only leaving a little bit of white. We really did like most of it black to grey gradient, so there wasn't a lot of room for the red. So I just go straight over the top of the blacks and the greys with the red, and I'm not leaving any breaks in those sections. I'm also going to come down behind the skull a little bit with the red, bringing that down, and then just take my blending brush to fade that out so that we get like a nice soft red glow in the background. Now, aside from Japanese work and American traditional stuff, which is, like I said, my favorite styles to work in, what kind of styles do you guys like? What do you guys want to see? I can do some more realistic style stuff, although that's not really what I enjoy doing, or that I'm certainly not the best at doing realistic style work, but you know, I have done my fair share of it, and I don't have an issue doing a little bit of it if you guys would like to see that. Okay, my camera cut out there, so I'm going to just continue it from here. Hopefully you guys didn't miss too much. I will find out in post when I start editing this one. But yeah, I was talking about just what kind of content you guys want to see. Aside from tutorials and the paint along sort of thing, I was basically asking, is there any other styles you guys want to see me do? Or teach? Or paint along to? I like doing a variation of styles. Most of what I like to do is Japanese and American traditional, like I said, but I like traditional styles in general. Pretty much anything that's heavy in line work, neo-traditional. I don't mind new school stuff sometimes. It's a little bit too cartoony, but I don't mind it. So we can cover a little bit of that as well. Just depends what you guys are interested in. I'm here to make content that you guys want to watch, so I want to make sure that you guys are interested in seeing it before I start changing the content and making random stuff that, you know, no one's actually going to enjoy. I do try to put a lot of effort into my videos to make them productive and enjoyable, so at the same time, I don't want to waste my time making a stupid video about new school stuff and then all of a sudden none of my viewers are interested in watching something about new school stuff. So you'll have to let me know if there's any other styles that you guys specifically want to see. But I've just noticed a trend that you guys seem to really enjoy Japanese stuff, and some of you seem to enjoy the American traditional style stuff that I do. So the other thing I want to get your thoughts on is I'm interested in putting out a design book. So this would be either in the format, it'll be digital, it'll be like a PDF format, but it's either going to be in the format of like a coloring book or just a design book full of line work flash that you guys can go ahead and trace and paint for yourself. In terms of it being a coloring book, I believe for me it's probably still going to be that same format. It's still going to be just tracing onto watercolor paper to color it in, unless you want to import it to a digital program to color it in that way. But yeah, I wanted to get your feedback and see what you guys would like to see in terms of style. I was thinking about doing mostly Japanese stuff, but maybe you guys want to see more traditional style stuff in this flash book or this line work book. So you'll have to let me know which one of those you would like to see. I'm just going in with the cerulean blue now, and I'm just doing these little sort of semicircle portions on the outer edge of our horseshoe here. Now, something to note about cerulean blue And I sort of realized this during our food dog tutorial that we did last week. But it's more of an opaque color. They've mixed, I think, a white pigment in to get a sort of lighter blue color, which means when you lay it down on top of your black lime work, you can still see your line work through it once it dries, but it's a little bit more opaque, so it dulls your lines down a little bit, and I sort of don't like that very much. I like to work with transparent colors. That's just the way I like to work. But yeah, it gives me the same result that I get when mixing white with colors. So when I want to get a lighter shade of something, I generally blend out. That's because I'm working with white paper. So you know, when you blend out with white onto with a transparent color onto white paper, it lightens it up to almost white. But yeah, it looks like they've mixed a white pigment in with the blue, which makes it a little bit more opaque, which I don't love. So that's just a bit of advice in case you guys are wanting to use Liquitex inks and you're not sure what colors to get. Personally, I'm not a big fan of this cerulean blue. It can be blended with, but the more opaque colors are really hard to blend. I'm just going in with a bit of sap green mixed with our orange yellow now. And I'm bringing it out over my black shading. And then I'm just going to gently blend that up to the edge. And you can see it lightens up from a dark green to a lime sort of green, like a yellowy green, and then up into the white there. And that's because I've added that yellow to my sap green. That's one of my favorite colors to make with the Liquitex inks for doing leaves and for doing snakes. I think it gives it's one of the most vibrant colors. And it's also it's a nice dynamic sort of change from the dark green all the way up to the lighter color as it changes and passes through different sort of shades of green and yellow. I just think it looks really nice. So I'm going ahead and just doing the leaves with this color. And the way I did this was basically put sap green in my palette, you know, 3-4 drops of sap green, and I put 2, maybe 3 drops of the orange yellow in it. And this just means that, you know, the sap green is quite strong. So when you first lay it down, it's still going to be quite a heavy dark green. And as you start blending it out, you'll see a little bit more of that yellow pigment come through. And it just looks really nice. It's a nice change from just a plain green to white transition, as you get this nice yellowy, almost lime green in the middle there. Okay, just washing my brush out again, now that I've done those leaves. And I'm going to go in with just the yellow orange now. Just loading my brush up. And I'm going to go ahead and just do these arches in the yellow orange. Just going over these arches. This is a nice fluid transparent color. I really like working with the yellow orange, as you guys probably already know. But I like how fluid it is, and I also really like how transparent it is, because it's very easy to blend and very easy to mix with other colors because of its transparency, and obviously because it's a light pigment as well. But it has a nice deep color to it. It's not like a canary or a cadmium yellow or something like that. It's a really nice deep sort of yellow color, so I really appreciate that about it. I'm also going to use this color to do the flower, and we're going to do this in a very similar way to how we did the previous paint along, and do a sunset style by dipping into our red, mixing in with our yellow to make an orange color. And we're going to paint that down from the top just with our orange, bringing that down. And at that point, I'll just take a blending brush and work that orange down on both sides to give us a smooth blend all the way down. And then if I wash my brush out and take just a little bit of the yellow, which we just got a bit of orange in it, so that's going to be tough. It's okay. You can always just pop a bit of yellow on the palette. Sometimes I use these little intersecting parts as extra space on the palette if I run out of room. Works quite well. And come up from the bottom with our solid yellow, like this. Just blending it up and over into our orange. And you get this really nice transition from orange into yellow. It's like a sunset sort of look, and I really like that for doing these traditional style flowers. I think it looks really nice. Alright, the last color that we're going to do is our transparent Raw Sienna. I think we used this in the last video, but it's almost like it's still like a yellowy gold color. It's just really transparent and super fluid. And I'm just using that to come in and do the banner. So I'm not really doing any blending or shading. Just coming in from that outer edge and going over the top of my blacks with this Raw Sienna color to give me that sort of, it's almost like a golden brown sort of yellowy colored parchment that the banner material is made out of. Now there is a bit of blending in this part. We're just coming up from the corner where that black shading is. And then I'll take my blending brush and just gently work that up a little bit. Might come in a layer a little bit more on there. And we just blend that up so that there's a little highlight in the middle area of the banner. It's coming in from the other side. And doing the same thing. Just blending it up. It leaves that nice little highlight in the middle of the banner that I think helps it stand out nicely. Okay, last thing we're doing from here, of course, is applying my seal. Now you'll notice that I still stamp my American traditional style stuff or traditional style work with my Hanko, my Japanese seal. But I sort of, this is more like my logo, I guess. I just use this on all of my work, so I will continue to use it no matter what style of work I'm doing anyways. So we will press that on there. Someone asked me where I got my custom made seal. I didn't, I actually made this. I just got a block of rubber, it's bendy. And I just got a scalpel blade, or what do you call it, a X-Acto knife, like a craft knife. And I just cut out the design myself, so you can go ahead and make one of those also. If you'd like to see me cover that in a future video, we can of course do that as well. That having been said, that is it for today's paint along. I really hope you enjoyed it. Make sure to leave comments in the comments section down below. I'd love to interact with you guys, and you'll have to let me know what kind of content you would like to see in future videos and what it is that you enjoyed about today's video as well. If you're new to my channel, make sure you hit the subscribe button down there. Make sure that you hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss future videos when they come out. That having been said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out. See you later. Bye.